All right, welcome back to the show. My name is Lindsay and I am your host. Joining me today, I have another fabulous guest, and I cannot wait for her to introduce herself because once again, I am going to be in the coaching seat. And I love this so much because not only do I get to experience all of these incredible coaches and what they do in their zones of genius, but I'm going to be raw and real, and who knows what's going to come out. And you get to have firsthand experience with it. So welcome, Lacey. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what we're going to do today?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Lindsay. My name is Lacey. I am a coach. I am IFS trained. I absolutely love working with women on partnered women on their relationships, like reconnecting with their partner, like coming back to intimacy, communication, especially if they're business owners and they've been putting their relationship on the back burner a little bit. But I also started as a business coach. So I have a lot of different things I work with clients on. And what we're going to do today is actually specifically IFS work, which is internal family systems. It's a therapeutic modality, which I am obsessed with. It is parts work. It's something that I've been bringing to my programs for several years, in addition to coaching, which really just helps us dive deeper to kind of shift those beliefs, those doubts, those fears. My clients rave about it. So I'm so excited to I think we're just going to dive in. And then if you have questions at the end or anything, we can talk about it. But I think the best way to explain this process is to actually see it done. So I'm very excited about doing this today.
Yes, let's do it. And we haven't done much prep here. I don't know much about IFS. So this is exciting. So for anybody who's looking, they're like, what is she talking about? Get ready because we're just about to show you. Let's do it.
We're going to do it. Cool. Amazing. So the first thing that I love to do before I start this process with anyone is kind of just share 4 things that I think are really important. And so you kind of know what to expect. So first of all, I'm going to kind of facilitate or guide you through this process. You're welcome to kind of sit back, close your eyes, treat it like a meditation. You're welcome to sit right up and look at me and talk to me, whatever is comfortable for you. I may close my eyes just to feel into it. So just be aware of that. And then the other thing is that you are welcome to kind of do this internally, do most of it in your head. I just check in to see where you are so I know where we are in the process. Some other people prefer to speak it out loud. That's just how they process. So whatever really feels comfortable for you is totally fine. Another important thing to know is that your system will kick us out if it doesn't want to go there. So it's almost impossible to go too deep, to go through something that doesn't feel safe because your system will just kick us out. We always follow your system in this process. And lastly, there's no real goal for this. We just kind of go in and explore and see what comes up. So those are the things that I just like to let people know to kind of orient you to the process. Any questions about any of those things?
No, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay, cool. Let's do it. All right, so one of the first things that we do in this process is what we call mapping parts, and that is just really to figure out what part you want to focus on today. So Lindsay, you had let me know yesterday when we talked about this a little bit that there was some maybe stuff going on in life that could be affecting, business, relationship. Is there anything that you want to kind of touch on, or where you even want to start to talk about potentially what part to start with today?
Yeah, I think, when it comes to there's a lot of life shifting going on in my world right now. We got some news about 2 weeks ago now that kind of is changing the trajectory of everything that we've done. And well, I'm very good at pivoting and changing things up. And well, we live in Mexico and we've always kind of just come and do it. It's always been on our terms. And so this time it was the terms were given to us. And while we've done really great and everybody's super excited about what comes next, I definitely feel like there was a bit of a moment there where it was okay, so what do we do now? And so with that being said, there's a lot of changes going on. And I just want to make sure that my family unit is in a great spot, my business is in a great spot, and then of course my relationship. And so moving forward, I think that was kind of the area that I thought we could touch upon.
Okay, cool. So is there any specific, around that, it can be your family, your business, your relationship, any specific situation that's been causing stress, overwhelm, worry, anything like that?
I think the big one with what we're talking about right now is just the unknown, right?
Okay.
So, we've been in pretty much our own control over the last 8 years, even though we've been traveling, even though we've lived in Mexico, even though we've done a lot of things that most people are like, oh, that's crazy. We have been in control of all of that. So this
Okay.
time it was when it's taken away from you, I think that definitely causes a little bit of stress, but at the same time, um, you know, because of the type of personality I have, my husband have, and even my two teenage daughters have, we're all able to pivot and kind of get excited about the next, you know, chapter of our lives. But at the same time, of course, that means, okay, now what? And so there is a lot of, and I don't necessarily love to say stress in the sense of, how I deal with things. I am very much a positive person, like those type of things, but that is definitely part of what's going on in our world, because it's like, okay, so now we have to look at all these things when we didn't really think we had to look at anything before.
Okay. Okay, so let me just reflect back what I'm hearing so far. So I'm hearing that there's parts that are really good at pivoting for you and everyone else in your family. There's some parts perhaps around control that are coming up, and then parts that are, I mean, you can tell me what the like emotion is here, but that are maybe worried or just uncertain about like now what.
Yeah, and I think, the uncertainty for sure, it would have been the first thing that would come up, and if you and I had talked even 2 weeks ago, it would be a very different conversation than it is today. But, I would be, lying if I said that there wasn't areas that were just like, okay, so what does that mean? What does that look like? And, so we are going to be doing some traveling, which is amazing. And I mean, we live a very location-free lifestyle anyways, but we have been sitting in one location. Well, my oldest daughter, so I finished high school. So
Hmm.
now we're about to take the business on the true location freedom, which is on the road. And so there's
Okay.
some uncertainty behind that as well. How
Yeah.
much work to be done, how much travel to be done, how do we make sure that we're doing all the things from a business perspective, from a family travel perspective. So that's kind of the area I think that comes up more, is just well, what will this look like? I'm not sure, and that's okay. And I don't need to have the perfect control over it, but it also definitely is like, well, what will our day to day look like? And what will that look
Hmm.
like when we want to do that? And so it's things like that that I think come up more than anything else.
Okay. So does the uncertainty, and there could be several, but let's just say it's an uncertainty part. Does that feel like a place that might be good to start and we can see if it shifts us anywhere? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, sounds good.
Okay, cool. All right. So we'll do that. And sometimes what happens is once we get started, some other part comes up that actually needs way more attention. So we can see what happens, but we'll start here
Okay.
with this part. Okay. So what I'd love to ask you to do, Lindsay, is just well, you're welcome to sit back. You're welcome to, again, like I said, sit up. You can kind of soften your gaze. You can close your eyes, whatever feels good for you. But just bring your attention a little bit inward, maybe opening up your heart a little bit towards this part, feeling that you are getting closer and closer to it. Maybe noticing if there's any other parts that kind of seem in the way that are like between you and this part, or if it feels like you have like a pretty clear green light to interact with this uncertainty part.
Yeah, I think there's a green light. I think it's good.
Okay, awesome. So what I would love to invite you to do is to just see where you are experiencing this part in or around your body. See if you can locate where it is coming up and let me know how you're experiencing it in any way that it's showing up.
So I usually have in the same spot when it comes to stress, uncertainty, any of those things. So it is in my right shoulder blade behind, and it feels kind of like stabbing
Hmm.
pain. So there's
Hmm.
only one stretch that it can ever really get deep into it. But that's usually where it sits, and I can feel that now.
Okay. Yeah. So let's focus on that just for another moment, how you're feeling that stabbing pain in your right shoulder blade. And just let me know if you notice anything else there. It could be colors, shape, textures, temperatures. It could look like someone or something. And if not, that's okay, but just anything else that you might notice.
Well, years ago, I was told that I had an entity on my back, which is why I felt that.
Mm-hmm.
So since then, whether I completely agree or disagree or did any of the work that goes along with it, I often feel like I see just like a shadow in and around that
Okay.
space.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So maybe like a darkness, like a shadow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm curious, Lindsay, how you feel toward this part, this uncertainty part.
Mm, I mean, uncertain, obviously. But interestingly, I think I feel like with the shadow that kind of surrounds it more than the pain that comes with it, is kind of like this idea of, having a shield around me and kind of pushing at the shadow to kind of go back to where it comes from. That's kind of
Mm-hmm.
the kind of imagery that I have, where it's kind of pushing the shadow and trying to kind of push it back into its place. So I'm
Okay.
never really trying to remove it. I just always seem to kind of be pushing it back into place.
Okay. Yeah, I hear that. All right. So let's see if we actually, you can ask that part that's trying to push this original part away or the shadow of it away. Ask that part if it would be willing to step back and give you some space to interact with this part. It doesn't have to go anywhere, it doesn't have to disappear, but see if it would be willing to step back and give you a little bit of space.
I mean, yeah, it seems to be like, yeah, no, perch on it on my shoulder and and wait.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. So now that that part took a step back, how are you feeling, Lindsay, toward this original part?
I mean, I definitely am aware of the space on my shoulder blade, but I don't feel the stabbing pain nearly as much. But that
Okay.
awareness is there because, as I said, it tends to make itself known often, but it's definitely not the pain that I feel.
Okay. Yeah. And as you move a little closer to it, do you have any like specific emotions that come up toward this part?
I mean, originally, I would say that I get mad at it,
Mhm.
because it, gives me pain and I don't like it and I can't stretch it and I can't get rid of it. But at the same time, if I go a little bit deeper than that, um, I almost feel like it's a part of who I am. So, locking arms and kind of working together, from an uncertain perspective, for example. How do we work together to sort through some of those things? But instantly, if you ask me, I get more angry. But when I go a
Yeah.
little bit deeper, I think I feel more of like a connection or a work together or how do we figure this out together kind of scenario.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you can ask that part that feels mad if it would be willing to step back as well. Um, and I would love for you to let that original part know that you are feeling some maybe curiosity about how you can work together, maybe some connection that you'd like to make with it. Just let it know that and see how it reacts.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's excited. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how it's responding at the moment, but it's definitely more of a awareness or interest,
Hmm.
curiosity, maybe is what it's thinking. Because obviously, for the longest time, I've always been very unhappy with it. So I
Right.
think it's like, oh, interesting. This is a new thing.
Yeah. It's like, oh, she sees me. Now I can,
Hmm.
yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Awesome. So I'd love for you, Lindsay, to ask this part if it has any message for you, or if it could tell you what its role or its job has been for you.
So initially, it kind of feels like um, the the kind of yin to my yang, if that makes sense. So I am not somebody who is cautious when it comes to change. I often call myself like more of a changeaholic. I'm ready for change, and it's kind of saying, I'm just here to make sure that you just don't go all out the other direction, so I can help you balance those things. Um, yeah, it kind of feels like it's not a bad thing. It's actually just trying to keep me balanced, keep me I don't know if that's the right word. Balance doesn't seem like the right word for it, but keep me from going too far off the teeter-totter edge, right? So rather than going
Yeah.
all the way to one side, it's kind of trying to help balance me out the other way.
Yeah. Yeah, so it has a good intention, it sounds like.
Yeah. And oftentimes it's like, I don't know how else to communicate with you.
Yeah. Except for to give you stabbing pains in your shoulder. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. Okay. Okay, I love that. I'm curious if you get a sense about how old this part is or how long it's been doing this job for you.
It's a good question. Let's see. I mean, it's definitely been a few years for sure that I know that I can recall that it was there. Hmm. I'm not sure. I mean, it's definitely, as I said, kind of, if I were to put a time on it, I would say maybe the last 5+ years. That would be give or
Okay.
take on. So it's not been there always.
Mhm.
So I think it's more awareness was, I've seen it more aware in the last kind of 5+ years, I would guess. But whether it was there before and it was so quiet or so calm, I never noticed it. I don't know.
Okay. That's okay. All right. Yeah, and I'm curious, Lindsay, if this part sees you, if it senses your self energy here, and if it sees you in your present at your current age.
Mm, Good question. I don't know so much about my current age as of right this very second, but definitely adulthood, further along in motherhood. Like I'm not, when I was 30 having my kids, but now, as teenagers, like different time for sure. Maybe not this exact moment in time, but
Okay.
within that kind of time frame. Yeah.
Okay. Great. So I would just ask you to take a moment to update this part in whatever way feels helpful or like what it needs for it to actually see you in your present moment today.
Think just more, instead of just brushing it off, I it will be able to see me more presently if it knew what was going on, excuse me, in the present moment, which then
Hmm.
brings me to present.
Hmm.
Um, so even though obviously what I'm talking about is pretty recent in my world, um, it has been trying to communicate with me for a long time. And so if I maybe now acknowledge what it's trying to say, then it would bring it up to speed in terms of today's present day versus anything in the past.
Okay. Does it feel like you guys can make that connection and it can see you in the present?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I'd love for you to, so the part shared with us that it was basically its role is to keep you from going kind of too far the other way, to keep you in maybe some kind of balance, although that wasn't quite the right word. I'm curious
Mhm.
if you can ask the part what it's afraid would happen if it didn't do this job for you.
Uh, it just feels more just the concept of like dreaming in such a place that I don't think of any of the logistics of anything, which is pretty true. Uh, that's my husband's job. My job is to dream big. So I think yeah, it's just in the sense of sharing, and I never want to say burden because that's not the truth of the word, but sharing some of the responsibilities with the logistics, not just the dreaming.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it totally makes sense to me.
Okay. Yeah, and you mentioned that this part has probably been doing the job for at least 5 years, maybe longer. I'm curious if you get a sense, Lindsay, if this part is, if it likes its job, if it wants to keep doing it, if it feels tired of the job or it's just like exhausted. Do you get any sense of how it feels about its role?
Um, I don't know if I would say it's tired of its role. I just think that it's definitely done this before over and over and over again, which is, yes, very much the part. Um, yeah, I'm not sure I get the feeling that it's tired of it, but it's definitely like, here we go again kind of thing. Like, that's definitely the feel of it. I don't know necessarily if it's a negative or a positive. It's just more of a constant.
Yeah. Does it feel like it's working super hard, or does it feel like it like enjoys the amount of work that it's doing?
I think it did work really hard for me to get it, have an attention to it in the first place.
Hmm.
Now I think it just does it and I pay more attention to it. So I think it might have had to work a lot harder and now it's just kind of part of its job to do.
Okay, cool. So I want to ask the part this question, or I want you to ask the part this question, and we'll see how it answers. Um, I guess I'm curious, like if it was working really hard, or maybe even does feel like it's working like pretty consistently, does it want to, is there any part of the part that wants to like scale back a little? Would it rather show up a different way for you? Would it rather do something else? Would it rather do nothing at all? Like any of these things are possible. Can you ask it like if it feels like it wants to continue what it's doing, or if there's any change that it wants to make in the way that it's showing up for you?
I think as we're discussing this, it's pretty happy that I'm even acknowledging it in any way, shape, or form other than
Hmm.
just a pain in the ass.
Hmm.
So I think that as long as I can acknowledge and work together, like I said, locking arms, I think that came up earlier. If that's the case, then it's pretty happy where it is. But if
Okay.
it's the fight and the ignore and the grump and the all the feelings that I have been feeling about it, I definitely don't think it wants to continue that way. But if it's more of a togetherness, then it's happy with what it's doing.
Okay. So its new kind of role, or maybe it's already been shifting, but it's kind of going to be going forward. It sounds like, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that it wants to be working more with you, like arm in arm, like you said, and not against you.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Gotcha. Okay. Can you ask the part, it can totally do that. Can you ask the part if it has any fears about kind of shifting this role in this way and not doing it the old way, or if it feels okay?
No, I think it's pretty happy with the co-working together
Okay.
aspect.
Okay, cool. Does it need anything from you, from yourself, energy going forward in this new role?
I think again, just coming back to that togetherness rather than waiting and trying to push it away, communicating together to realize what it's trying to say
Hmm.
versus trying to ignore it for as long as I can.
Hmm.
Um, so I think, yeah, as long as that togetherness, that co-creation together is good, then I think it's good.
Okay. So maybe like I mean, you can tell me what the part would like, but maybe like like checking in with it more often, kind of tapping into it. Like, is there anything like
Yeah,
that?
and even
Okay.
I think even just, instead of waiting for it to, quote unquote hurt,
Hmm.
maybe having those conversations before, that kicks off and it's like, well,
Gotcha.
what's kind of being talked about before it's necessarily super, super sore.
Okay. I love that. Does that feel okay for you?
Yeah, that feels good for me.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay, Lindsay, we are going to come out of this in just a moment. Before we do, what I would like for you to do is thank that part that we worked with today and also any other part that came up today. There were a couple parts that came up in the beginning. Let them know that you can come back and talk with them later if you need to. And then anything else that you just want the part to know or that it wants you to know before you kind of come back out of this little meditation.
It's good. Really good.
Good? Cool.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I always love to suggest, if you have water, if you need a drink of anything, parts work always makes me super tired. So if you can take a little
Hmm.
break afterwards, even if it's just like 20 minutes or something, that sometimes is helpful. And then I'd love to know, Lindsay, how that process was for you.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Like I said, I've never thought of it in any other way. I don't even know what it was, maybe 2 or 3 years ago when somebody had said that I had this entity on my back. It's the first time I really kind of thought about it in any other way than other than just like, oh God, there it is again. So that was a really interesting shift. But to be fair, I didn't do a lot with it at all. So I thought, yeah, that was really interesting because whether I see it as like, this little, like I said, shadowy demony thing. I don't even know what an entity would really classify as, but something like that. Now that I've kind of thought about what it looks like, and then when you're like, can you just, help you move it out of the way and have that conversation with it? It definitely felt more two ways versus where it's always just been one way, which was me being like, why are you still here? Why is this hurting me?
Mhm.
That kind of thing. So yeah, that was really interesting. Really interesting.
Cool. I love that.
Hmm.
Yeah, and anything you noticed around like after kind of working with that part about how you feel toward it or just in general, like energy wise?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see what you're saying about just like right now, I'm like, I could go climb into bed. So
Hmm.
I feel that for sure. But yeah, I think that, anything from a like co-creation, like that kind of idea for me feels like it would be a lot better than one trying to control the other, and it's just interesting that that's what came out of it was more of a like, I'm here to help you, you're here to help me, that kind of thing. So I think that's really interesting to kind of work through a little bit more. But yeah, I think that was an interesting part that came up for me that I was, as I said, now I kind of feel it's more like a little thing versus just, as I said, I don't know, I have this vision in my head of this little like black, dark kind of character versus just like a thing that's on or in or whatever. And I think that's been really interesting to kind of see and explore a little bit more too.
Yeah, cool. Any questions about the process that we did or anything that came up?
No, I mean
Okay.
it's so interesting, so interesting. And again, as I said, there's a lot of parts of that I would like to explore a little bit more, just in general. Maybe naming him, maybe I don't know. Like there's a few other parts that I'm just like, I wonder what would happen there. So instead of it just being like, oh, there it is, now I could be like, hey, Sam, or
Yeah.
whatever, and
Yeah.
having that conversation. So, yeah, so I'm definitely going to journal on it a little bit and see if anything else comes up. But yeah, no, it
I
was
love
really
that.
interesting.
Cool. Yeah, so one thing that I love about parts work is, I mean, they don't say we have like infinite amount of parts, but I'm honestly not sure that I believe that because I feel like you're probably like parts are either coming back or they're evolving or an old one's coming back or like things are just, I've had like for instance like not good enough parts, but they come up in each
Mm,
specific situation and they're always a little bit different. Do you know what I mean? So it's like a bunch of parts in this
interesting.
like constellation of parts. But yeah, I mean, some of the main things about IFS are we have a self, right? We have self energy. That's why I kept saying, like, how do you, Lindsay, feel toward this part, right? We're kind of like creating that space between you and the part. We all have a bunch of parts, which is kind of just a really cool thing to think about. And sometimes they do like name themselves. They want you to call them something specific. So yeah, those are all kind of like fun things. My favorite thing is hearing like what their role is for you, because sometimes it's not what people thought at all. And then
Right.
sometimes the like what they'd rather do instead gets really creative. Like most of my parts are like hanging out at the beach, they're on a playground, like they're riding a horse, like they're just it will just come to you instantly and they're like going to do something else because they're just so sick of the role, which wasn't how your part like responded to that, but it's just like so interesting to see like people's different systems and how that works. So thank you for doing that with me. It was so fun and such
Yeah.
an honor.
Well, thank you for doing it with me, because yeah, I loved it, and that's amazing. So anybody who's watching is just like, what the heck just happened? You get to see it firsthand, like I just did. But Lacey, where can people find you if they're interested in learning more about you or more about what you just did with me? Where is the best place for them to reach you? And we'll put all of this in the show notes, guys. So if you can't write fast enough, don't worry, we'll have all of the links here. But where's the best place for them to find you?
Yeah. So my website is confidenceandmagic.com. My Instagram is at Graceful Rising Coaching. And in there is like, the link tree in my bio that probably has all my current resources and offers. One thing I will say is although I do bring IFS parts work into all my coaching programs, I also have separate IFS packages. So if there's ever someone who's like, I just want to do IFS, like let me know because we can do that as well.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, guys, you saw here again, this is not something I had any intention of having brought up, but that's what happens when you come in and you sit in the coach's seat to work with Lacey. So that's amazing. And if you have any questions about any of this, or you just want to follow because Lacey's awesome and you want to just see what's going on with her, I'll have all the links for her Instagram and everything in the show notes so you can take a look and follow along and see what she's all about. And if you do have relationship questions, definitely reach out because that is one of the areas that she absolutely loves to work with. So I thank you so much, Lacey, for coming, for hanging with me, to doing some of the work with me. I much appreciate it. And then, of course, I'll let you know how my journaling goes to see what happens after this. But I appreciate it so much. And thanks again for hanging out with me.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, guys. See you until the next episode.